Good morning, everyone, and welcome along to the Blood Red Liverpool News Daily with myself, Patrick Smith, as we bring you all the latest Liverpool FC news and topics. We're joined with today, we've got Andrew Beasley. Andrew, how's things?
Yeah, good, thanks. Cold, just like everybody, but not doing too bad.
Yeah, it's a cold one today, certainly. Right, so make sure you stay in and watch all the Blood Red content to keep yourselves warm. Well, we're going to get into last night's World Cup match. Plenty of Liverpool interest. We have to start, though, with Ibrahima Konate coming in for the ill Dayot Upamecano. What a performance from him, Andrew. I mean, the little man, we know his skill set, we know how good he can be, and he's now put that on the global stage in a World Cup semi-final. Massive, massive night for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, people have probably seen, but like the French team's Twitter account just put in all capital letters, Ibu is monstrous in French, obviously, after the game. And I think that summed it up. I mean, yeah, it was an incredible performance. I mean, obviously, he presumably knew a little bit in advance that he was going to be playing, but I mean, he's not played every single match at the tournament by any means. So he's sort of come in somewhat cold. And delivered an incredible performance. Seemed to be cutting something out every time Morocco came forward, and just every aspect of it was great. He'll if he keeps his place, obviously big test on Sunday against Lionel Messi. But he's got to be delighted with how he played last night.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable for him. And what was quite funny as well is Jules Koundé posted on social media afterwards that him and Konate actually missed the dressing room celebrations for a doping check. It's not the greatest of movies for Konate in that sense. He missed all the celebrations, but his performance was amazing. But it's sort of the same story at Liverpool, isn't it? He's not necessarily favoured as a nailed-on first choice. I mean, granted, he does start most of the European games, but at least domestically, has he really now got to be knocking on that door? He's only 23, I know, and Matip obviously is a great defender in his own right. But is now the time that Konate could really be knocking on Klopp's door for that starting place to be nailed on in the league?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, as you rightly say there, I mean, he started, I think, all but one of the Champions League knockout games last season. I think only Alisson played more minutes, if I remember rightly. And he was probably Liverpool's best player in the final as well. I mean, obviously, much of the final gets forgotten now, but he was probably Liverpool's best player there. He does deserve to be starting in the league. I mean, I think he's been unfortunate. I was literally just looking now. I didn't realise he's only made 3 starts for Liverpool so far this season. Obviously, with the World Cup being on for a month, you've slightly forgotten what's gone before. But he's only made 3 starts for Liverpool so far and 1 substitute appearance. So he hasn't even really featured yet, to be honest. And I mean, he does deserve to be in the team. I mean, he's been playing on the left for France. So, in the long term, you have to wonder if he's perhaps he'll take over from Van Dijk eventually on that side of the defence. But I mean, certainly in the short term, he deserves to be starting every game he's available for. I mean, obviously, he won't be back to start the first couple of games once the Premier League gets going, I don't imagine. But once we get into the new year, I think we all want to be seeing plenty of Konate alongside Van Dijk.
Yeah, I mean, in Van Dijk's own words, isn't it? He's calling Konate and Gomez the ones for the future, with Konate naturally favouring the left for France there, perhaps, and Gomez obviously favouring the right-hand side. That could be a partnership for the next, 5-6 years once Van Dijk's gone, hopefully. But of course, he came in for Upamecano last night, someone who we were actually linked with before we signed Konate himself. I remember randomly, me, like many others, I imagine, will have watched the Man United against Leipzig, where Upamecano was actually really shaky, similar to what I've seen of him during this World Cup. I mean, like in the England game, it makes you think, doesn't it? It baffles me how Konate wasn't chosen to start for France over him. Do you think now then, if, let's say, if Upamecano does recover from his illness, Deschamps has got a bit of a headache, hasn't he, for the final?
Well, he has, because obviously he'll have his preferred option, which would appear to be Upamecano. But I mean, I don't know how he drops Konate after that performance last night. But as I say, Konate is still fairly new at this level. I think he'd only won a couple of caps before the tournament began, and as much as he has been playing well, Upamecano is the sort of established player. It's his shirt when fit, if you like. But I can't hide my bias. I'd be putting Konate in the team on Sunday myself if I was in charge, certainly.
Yeah, I think we all would. And something a little bit non-Liverpool related, I just want to touch on, though. Karim Benzema has apparently recovered from his injury that's seen him miss the whole tournament. He could potentially be fit for the final. Now, what would you do, Beasley, if you were Deschamps in that one as well? You've had Giroud and Griezmann playing so well. Do you bring Benzema in, or do you leave him on the bench for the final?
I think you'd probably leave him on the bench just because the attacking players have been doing so well. I mean, obviously Giroud's equalled, or I think he's now set the goal scoring record for France, Mbappe needs no explanation. Dembele's gone a bit quiet the last few games, but he had a good start to the tournament. And obviously Griezmann's been fantastic. I mean, maybe deserves the golden ball for player of the tournament, possibly. So, yeah, I think it would be a big call to drop one of them to bring Benzema in. But I mean, that's not a bad option to have on the bench if you need a goal with half an hour to go, is it? Let's be honest. So, yeah, I think it would be a bit much to bring him in from the start, but it would be interesting if he comes back, like sort of France's secret weapon for the final, effectively. I mean, what a secret weapon to have, really, if you can have Benzema coming back. But I'm not sure if there's actually anything in it. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see, certainly. But I think the bench probably for him.
Yeah, I'm going to also pretend that I didn't forget to mention Kylian Mbappe in the build-up to that question. Well, let's move on then. Amongst the opposition, there's another player who's certainly piqued Liverpool interest alongside, I'm sure, every other club in Europe. Of course, we're talking about Sofyan Amrabat. Another immense display from him last night, Andrew. Wasn't quite meant to be, but I mean, what a tournament he's had. He's really, really been crucial in the middle of the park for Morocco, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been fantastic. I mean, pretty much all of their players have. Let's be honest, they wouldn't have got to the semi-final if they hadn't been. But yeah, he's certainly been one of the standout stars. And it's interesting. I was when I was last on one of these videos talking to Emmett Gates, who follows Serie A quite closely, and he was saying Amrabat couldn't even get in the Fiorentina team, last season, and now he's in the team, and now he's gone to the World Cup, and obviously, there's always a thing about you shouldn't buy players purely on their performance at the World Cup. And I think there's a lot of truth in that because it is such a sort of short sample of sort of slightly random games. But he's obviously done his chances of a big move no harm at all by showing what he can do there. I thought it was interesting that he said, well, I think quotes were given that he said he'd like to play for Atletico Madrid. And obviously, he'd probably have to play in a fairly similar style there. So I suppose it makes sense in one degree. But he looks capable of playing for pretty much any team he wants to, based on his World Cup efforts. And whether that becomes Liverpool, we'll have to wait and see. But I don't think many people would be disappointed if Liverpool did sign him.
Yeah, I mean, you've touched on my next question there. It's almost strange news to me that someone could be an admirer of Diego Simeone at Atletico Madrid style. I mean, I would love to know what they drink in the Morocco changing room to come up with that thought. But I mean, with these impressive performances, and the demand's only going to increase for him. Do you think that could potentially price Liverpool out of the move for him? Because there's going to be so much competition, as you said, after World Cups. Players get hyped up, the prices spike, don't they? And Fiorentina are going to be looking at that. As Emmett Gates has rightly said, he doesn't even start for Fiorentina sometimes. They're surely going to be looking to cash in, which could only be a problem for Liverpool at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, everybody sort of believes that Liverpool are going to be steering the majority of their resources towards signing Jude Bellingham, and rightly so. Fantastic player. But clearly, if they do, how much does that leave for other signings? History suggests not all that much, because when they've done big deals in the past, it's tend to have been financed, by Coutinho being sold, allowed Van Dijk and Alisson Becker to be signed, and things like that. So obviously, if Amrabat's price is skyrocketing, then then they may be priced out of it. He sort of feels like someone, historically they might have bought before anyone else sort of really knew who he was. Sort of, like when they bought Andy Robertson, or I mean, it's not the same thing, but sort of similar in that, somewhat below the radar, and then he comes to Liverpool and becomes a star. Well, if Liverpool were interested in him, I mean, he's become a star before they've got their act together and done anything about it. But not that anyone could have really predicted how he'd have done in the World Cup, of course. Morocco were not expected to get through the group, much less reach the semi-final. But yeah, his value will only have rocketed. I'm not sure what his contract situation is, but I think Fiorentina are going to want to tie him down or sell him for the maximum possible price while they can. I think there'll be a lot of interest in him in January. So we'll have to see what happens there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's got a 2024 expire. And as you said, it could be a situation like Andy Robertson where they could have gone in and found themselves a bargain, or it could turn out to be a Christian Poulsen, if my memory serves me correct, signing him after a decent World Cup. And then we all know what happened there. Well, Andrew, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining me. And thank you, of course, to all of you for watching and commenting along as well. Keep those comments coming. We'll be back here again tomorrow at the exact same time of 9:30 with more Liverpool FC news. So make sure you check back on the Blood Red channel then for that.